Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hello. Christine, is Joe Grow the head of the Christine fan club or what?
I'm starting to think so.
Gonna get shirts made?
He's not a bad guy to have on your side, though.
Yes. All right, we are live on YouTube, so I will post on Facebook and you can start whenever you are ready.
Great. Thank you very much, Christine. We'll call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen at a special different time to order on June 9th. In attendance, myself, Mike Ergo, First Selectman, Nita Kincaid, Bob Carlson, Admin Finance Director. Christine Dias is with us. And the first item on the agenda is public comment. If there's any public comment, if you're on the phone, you just dial *6. I see a hand raised, so we'll start with our first public commenter. And Christine, you can.
I'm still posting on Facebook. Hold on.
Yep. Give us 1 second. I see Brian has his hand up.
I apologize.
Hang with us. Almost
typing.
there.
Okay. Are we posted? Am I posted? Yes, posted. Okay. All
Great.
right. So, Brian, you are recognized. You just have to unmute yourself.
That one?
Yep, that one.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I read about where they're gonna make some trails up on the land up at Winachog. I guess the Conservation Commission is gonna clear some trails. I think they're previous trails that were there. But I'm kind of concerned because I think a lot of the trails in town are starting to turn into where people just walk their dogs all the time. I got no problem with people walking dogs, but I think some of the trails got to keep dog free, so to speak. And the property owners that abut there, I'm wondering if they ever get notified that they're gonna clear trails up by their houses. You know, I think it's definitely get a concern. It seems like all town land all of a sudden is wide open to have trails on, and I'm worried about that because I guess even at the Hewitt Park there, some people found some bags with dog dew in it and they just left them there, which does not do any good at all. So anyways, I didn't know if the town will get a chance to vote on different things like that as far as the trails go. You know, I still believe that a lot of the open space in North Stonington should be for the wild critters that were here for a long time. And when dogs get involved, boom, the critters disappear. And that's my concern. So I'm hoping that we can come up with something where either the selectmen have to vote for the trails or of course, people can't vote now anyways, but I'd like to see somebody be able to vote simply because the Conservation Commission is an advisory board. And the way it was set up, the way I understand it, was so that they could get an idea, bring it to the selectmen, and then they have to decide whether it's got to go to a town meeting or if it might be something that they themselves can vote on. Because I know when we originally put when it originally came in, that's what it was. So I'm kind of concerned about the trails. I don't want to see another bridle trail happen. You know, that was a fiasco from the beginning. Nobody paid attention to what I was saying or anybody else until the budding landowners got notified and they said, what? You know, so to prevent that again, I think it's wise that we notify anybody if there's going to be trails made that abut or affect them. Thank you.
Thank you. You're muted, Christine.
Michael Kimball, you're recognized.
Good evening. I just got a question. I was driving through Meadowood today and I see a bunch of call before you dig markings. Is there something going on there?
I'll have to take a look. I don't have an answer for you tonight, Mike.
Well, it says CP and I'm assuming that's Charles Pastriak Paving. Can you confirm or deny?
I can't confirm anything right now because I'm just hearing about it, but we are planning on doing some paving in the Meadowood and Cedar Ridge area this year, as I've said on many calls already. So it's possible they've been out there, yes.
And was this put out to bid?
So as I told you via email, when you've already emailed me about this, Mike, due to the fact of the situation we had before with a terrible job, we've gone to the state bid list, which is completely legal and proper for us to do. Pastriak's done a very good job. Our highway foreman's very comfortable, and they are on the state bid list, so that job will be awarded via the state bid list.
I understand that, but wouldn't it make more sense to put it out to bid on a big dollar item trying to save the taxpayers money? Because using the state bid list doesn't always ensure you get the lowest price.
So thank you for your comment. And as I said before, when we talked, we also are not assured getting a good quality, which is what happened already in Kingswood, Meadowood, Cedar Ridge. And that is what I want to assure more than anything. The state bid list actually does vet vendors, which is why these people are able to be on the state bid list. They have a quality of product that is appropriate and thus been vetted. And so it isn't something, generally speaking, we have a team that looks at these things and we try to make the best decisions for the town. So thank you for your comment.
Can I follow up with that?
You may.
Again, I don't believe that Charles Pastriak Asphalt is on the state bid list because I don't believe they're Connecticut state approved asphalt. And again, I ask, it's such a big dollar item, why doesn't it go out to bid?
Can I respond as the admin finance officer?
Yeah, please do.
So they are on the state bid list. I could send you a copy of the contract that they have for bituminous asphalt with the state of Connecticut that expires in 2021. And the reason that municipalities use the state bid list is so that it saves us time and expense of having to go out to bid. The state has already done that for us. They've already vetted these contractors and the product that they're producing.
I understand how the state bid list works, but again, it's not always the cheapest price. I mean,
no one's going to argue with you on that, Mike. Thank you for your comment.
Okay, I have a hand up from Juliet.
Juliet, you'll be brought in. Did you have something as it relates to the agenda? I'm going to bring you in on the next item. I mean, the second to next item. Is there something else?
Yeah, I was just wondering if the Meadowood call before your dig might have had to do with 2 individual paving jobs right in the vicinity of 28 and 30 Meadowood, but I didn't know how to unraise my hand after you started talking.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I just was told, I just heard about it for the first time now. So it could have been, I know there's some other jobs going on. Individual homeowners have some things going on there. So
there's 2 that I know of. So yeah.
I'm aware of that as well. Yeah. So.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other comments. Thank you for those comments. So with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is the per diem firefighter discussion. So as the selectmen are well aware, the Board of Finance elected to add in a line item for per diem firefighter, which is was not included in the budget we put forth. So I thought it prudent that we have a conversation about what that looks like and how, if the selectmen have any input or want to have any discussion about it, and B, to hear from the chief, who I think would speak on this topic as far as what they're thinking about as far as moving something forward. So maybe the best thing to do is hear from the chief, and then if the selectmen have comments or questions, we can go ahead and answer them. So I know Chief is go ahead, Bob. Yep.
Just one question. I know that, I think it's Chief Steinhart's mentioned this, that you always need 2 firefighters for a truck to leave the station. They voted to put 1 on there. Does that mean, so we've got one, does that mean we're gonna probably need to have two eventually because you can't leave the station with one? Or are they hoping that one of the non-per diem volunteers shows up? Is that how it's gonna work?
Or are they gonna think about taking that money and splitting it and getting two, but having less coverage? I don't know, but I think that's questions the chief probably can answer for us. So that's a good question, Bob. So we can go ahead and promote Chief Steinhardt to a panelist, and I appreciate that he was willing to take the time to join us tonight. Thank you, Charlie, and welcome to the discussion. So the floor is yours as far as just kind of talking about this. And first of all, you know, we're happy that, I mean, I'm happy that this seemed to work out. And, you know, obviously public safety is an important thing in town. I think the selectmen have said that all along. We just kind of differed on how to get here. So certainly tell us what you're thinking.
So everybody's well aware, we were looking for the two per diems with $100,000. It's been reduced to one at 50,000. Again, yes, we attend not to leave with one person on a fire truck. You know, again, this program was never to replace our volunteers. It was guaranteeing that we would have driver in the building to get the truck on the road. So no different than any other day when the trucks are here, we're still relying on our volunteers. So with two, two is better. It's two trucks guaranteed, but now we're guaranteeing the one. It's good. So with that being said, we're in the process of, you know, getting the application together, the job description, and the employee manual and handbook put together. We're getting reviewed by our labor attorney to make sure everything's above board and it's legal prior to posting anything. Once we get them in, we have a panel that's going to review the applications of 5. It's the 3 chiefs, the president, and the chairman of the board. They'll be vetted, gone through, and the most qualified applicants will be hired. We're looking hopefully to start off with only hiring 3. Because again, they're PDMs, they're not working every day. So you have a small pool of people to fill the 5 shifts. We're trying to keep it at 2 shifts a week with 3 people. Obviously, one person will work 1 day. So every 3rd week, each individual would work 1 shift a week. So that's sort of our rotation we're looking at. Again, by following the laws, maximum 29 hours a week, things like that, keeping them under that threshold so we don't have to worry about benefits and offering stuff like that. So that's where we're heading towards. But that's basically the program, and it's moving forward. So
I'd open it up for questions from the board. Go ahead, Bob.
Just for clarification, Chief, so I think you mentioned before that if you're a volunteer, you can't be a per diem. So if one of your volunteers applies, he's no longer going to be a volunteer, he's just going to be a per diem, correct?
Yep.
Secondly, I think about a year or so ago, when we were talking about the 3-bay garage, there was mention of a firefighter living at the station. Is there still a firefighter living at the station, and is he also considered a volunteer who would be there if needed?
Yes, he's a volunteer, but remember, he still has a full-time job. So he's not, even though he may live at the firehouse, he's not always in the building. He has to go to work and he still has a life. But we are, getting the benefits of him when he's home or sleeping, that he's available to respond to calls. So yes.
Does he work first shift? Is he available second and third, or is he?
He's a career firefighter, works a 24-hour schedule. So he's gone for an entire day, off another day, on another day. He works 24 on, 24 off.
Okay.
Nita, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Charlie, can you elaborate on the, you mentioned there's a panelist that's going to be in charge of hiring this person. Can you mention who those people are that are going to be on that panel?
It's the 3 chiefs, myself, Joe Casada, Jim Tuttle, and the chairman of the board, Charles Steinhardt, 4, and the president, Kyle Bertle. And the way it's going to work out is basically is our board of directors becomes our HR department to handle any issues internally with our employees. So if it becomes a problem, there's an avenue for them to, file a grievance or an issue with. Because if they have a problem with their direct supervisor, which would be myself or the president, they have an avenue to file a complaint against us if they ever had one. So
Is there any consideration or thought to having someone from the town on that panel?
this is not a town employee. This is a fire company employee. So no, there's not.
So, I mean, I asked the question just because it may help. Well, A, it always helps to have more talent in the room. But B, I think just, obviously there's a lot of questions about it, so it might be something to consider. Maybe you want to talk about it.
No, it's going to confuse the issue. We are not part of the town. Trying to get someone who's not part of the fire company in on a hiring practice of the company to hire an employee is just going to muddy the water, in my opinion. So we have very competent people that are going to be reviewing them, and there's no concern about it. And we're going to have legal counsel throughout the entire process.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
So again, for clarification, so you said this firefighter, per diem firefighter will be reporting to you, Charlie, and who else?
The president,
Which is Kyle Bergel.
correct.
And so you'll be the direct supervisor to sign off on how many hours they were actually there and so on. What, do they have any duties while they're at the firehouse other than just
Yes.
waiting to hear if there's a call?
So, no, they're going to have daily assignments, weekly assignments. Basically, like any other per diem fire department area, you start off your day with truck checks. You got to truck every vehicle in the building, ensure the fuel levels are full, water levels are full, check all the SCBAs, a quick cursory check of every vehicle, making sure the readiness is done. And then they'll be assigned a daily task. So Monday may be pulling engine one out, washing it, vacuuming it, cleaning the windows, doing an inventory on it, making sure all the saws and tools are run, cleaning the tools, whatever it may need to be done. And then that's their assignment for that. And as well as other assignments that can be added along the way is we have water holes in town, updating our water holes list, all the ponds and streams that we need access to, add them to the list, update the list that we use for structure fires, things like that for our dispatch center. So a lot of things that take a lot of time is really put off onto the individuals to do that type of stuff for us, like pre-planning buildings throughout the town. So there's a lot of little tasks they can do and routine daily stuff.
And then you'll monitor these tasks to see that they got done.
Correct. With it, you still have your volunteer line officers. The per diem employees will not have any supervision authority. So your line officers are still your line officers. Monthly, they are going to do their full inventories as they do now, confirming that everything has been done and basically overseeing to make the basic checks and balances. They're going to fill out sheets to say they did it. Then our officers are going to go through it and do an entire teardown of the apparatus like they do monthly and ensure it's been done.
Thank you.
It sounds like some of the work probably just piles up because you guys are volunteers, obviously, and so it's probably a welcome addition to have somebody like this to delegate some of these tasks to. Will this alleviate the responsibility of some of the officers who are currently performing some of these tasks?
No, not really. What it does is it lightens the load of the burden on them, but they're still basically our officers are assigned, basically the amount of officers we have are assigned to a piece of apparatus. So the way it works is, other than the chiefs, the captains are assigned to a specific vehicle. Each lieutenant has a vehicle. So your vehicles and amount of lieutenants are about basically the amount of vehicles we have. So we typically assign a vehicle to an officer. So that officer is responsible for ensuring that that's checked and ready to go each month.
Okay.
Again, we don't just check it once a month. It's checked after every call and ensured it's ready to go for the next call. But they do a full inventory once a month. But this will be done more now frequently with the per diem in the building.
You may have said this already, Charlie, but when do you hope to have per diem in place?
Again, the biggest hurdle we have is turnout gear. We have to buy them fire gear. We have the funds in the budget already. It's a 2 to 3 month lead time to get gear. So you're looking at, once we hire them, Immediately getting them in, getting them sized for their turnout gear, and as soon as the gear's in, they can be put to service. Hopefully, we can find gear in the building that will fit them, and then for temporary, if we can, the faster we get that in, the faster they can be put on the floor and put to use. So my vision is again, like we said, previous discussions, is understanding if July 1 we got the funds, we may not be able to start this person September, October timeframe. By the time you actually advertise it, get the the applications in, review them, then hire them and order their gear.
Do you see any issues with your volunteers when they're in the building where the person's getting paid on, okay, this guy's getting paid and he's here and I'm not getting paid and I'm here? And do you see any issues like that with the personnel?
I don't, because we're already living in the building now with 2 paid EMS crew in our building with us. So it's not a difference because we're already living that. So we already have paid people in our building while the volunteers are here. So that's not a real difference.
Do the selectmen have any other questions?
I'm good.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I appreciate you coming on, Charlie. I think it was good for us to get a sense of what you're doing there. And, just to reiterate my thought, I wasn't asking necessarily, but I was offering if you go back to your group and you feel like it would be helpful from a collaborative standpoint to have someone from the board be involved. I'm sure one of the selectmen would be happy to, I don't want to speak for them, but would be happy to help just to keep the open lines of communication open. Obviously, we've had good ones already between us, but I think just from the town, sometimes that doesn't hurt either. So, but no problem either way. Other than that, if you have any questions for us?
No, again, we'll definitely be talking moving forward with this. So again, open line of communication is important. So when we move forward, we'll let you know how we progress.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time. All right. Next up is the 163 Winterchog Hill Road Wetlands Delineation Report. I just want continuing to keep the selectmen up to speed and the public. As we've discussed before, we're kind of looking at that Winterchog Road parcel as a potential site for an animal shelter, and wanted to do some work to kind of see the potential reality of that. Obviously, we've talked about a 501c3 potentially being formed to help facilitate fundraising to make that happen. But if the more we can do to get the site ready is only going to help everything. And certainly it's something that the town has identified as a need or want anyway. So we did get a report back on the wetlands, and Juliet will be able to explain to us the findings, which you were emailed the report. So Juliet, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
So the thing to point out about this site is obviously, yes, there are a lot of wetlands on the property. That said, there is where the existing house and barn is, they exist currently within the wetlands 100-foot boundary, and that's fine. So I guess I would first start out by saying, despite all of the wetlands, that does not mean that a structure can't be built within the 100-foot boundary. There's plenty of room on this parcel for structures to exist almost within that 100-foot boundary. It's sort of like where the existing house is exactly where 100 feet, connects. So what's good about this parcel as well is that there's some existing drainage infrastructure in place, obviously in recognition of the wetlands when the original house was built. So where the driveway comes in, and if you're looking at your plan, where the two sets of wetlands kind of converge right by the pond, there's a driveway that comes up and a retaining wall. There's a reinforced concrete pipe that runs underneath there, draining the wetlands from the east down into the pond. The whole site drains to the east. So as far as a dog pound it's actually, you know, it's a perfectly suitable site for something like that, because you're not talking about one house or multiple houses like we had envisioned with the affordable housing project. You know, this is a sort of a low impact septic system that would be required for something like this. So it would need wetlands review, obviously, and planning and zoning review, but for the most part, there's a good solid area outside of the limits of clearing that would be suitable for a building. And I'm not sure what other information you would like from me, but obviously the fact that it was built on before means it can be built on again.
I think I just wanted to make sure that the selectmen were aware that, you know, we got this back and that things can continue the investigation can continue to proceed as far as, you know, what might be able to be done there. So the next thing to do, hang on a second, bear with me, would be the site plan. So I think that's something that that should be investigated as we kind of continue to look at the potential for this parcel. You know, obviously trying to do some of the work on this side from the town side. So that way, if this gets to the point, and I think there's people trying to work on it, that we set them up for success, you know, and I feel like that's the feeling I've gotten from both of the selectmen about just trying to, the town to do its part to try to support this effort. So
You've got quite a good head start, because you obviously had a well and a septic system in place, and you also have a really large area up in the northeast or northwest corner that's also flat and available. So I think you'll have an easy time moving to the next stage.
The you know, we had a volunteer who had done some renderings, which you guys have gotten, everybody's seen those now, as far as kind of a basic building that would fit the character of the town. So just trying to put the pieces in place here. But can Juliet answer any questions, or do you have any general questions, Bob or Anita?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we are up to speed on that then. The number 5, the John Dean Gallup House rental RFP. So we did go out with the RFP. And I know, Nita, I think you wanted to kind of comment on this one, so feel free.
We went out on May 13th, which was, I think, a little more than a week after all the painting had been done in the house, et cetera. And we had a good example that we could put into a video so that people could see it, and we posted it on the town website and made contact with a few groups outside of North Stonington who might have ideas of people who would be interested. We did this, the posting itself on the 13th. The proposals were due 13th of May, and the proposals were due by the 1st of June. We did not receive any proposals. So we want to step back again, and we want to look at more of the ways that we could get people who are interested in this kind of a historical
It's 8 o'clock.
Place to be in, or to be working at, or to be living in. So we are going to pick up again and try to move forward to put another RFP out. And we have some ideas of things that we haven't done. For example, right now we are about to go out with a North Stonington Quarterly by the end of this month. And we could put information in there for all the people in town to know about. And we can try other groups that we know. So we just, I think, have to pick up our thoughts about the types of people that will be most interested in the building. And hopefully, by the time that we do some of this, we will also be at another level of the virus situation, and we will actually be able to let people visit and see it. So that's, anything more that either any of you would like to know?
No, I think you're right about the timing. Obviously, it's pretty crazy time right now. And, I
Yeah.
think we're optimistic that we'd have some interest, but I think that there's other opportunities to get the word out a little bit more than we did. We tried a couple of avenues, but I think better advertising to get the right entity in there. And that's, I think, key is that, yes, I think last time around we ended up with, we're $10,000 in revenue per year or something like that, 900 a month or something.
That's right.
And that's important to get that revenue to come into the town, but it's more important to get the right entity in there to make sure that North Stonington asset is well taken care of. So I'm looking forward to getting it back out there and utilizing the quarterly. I know Juliet has some ideas as well, to get the word out there a little bit more. And
Right.
so we'll get it back out there in July, I guess, and try to get some occupation in there before the end of the summer would be good.
Yeah, Mike, I just think we should post it for about a month
Right.
to give
It-
people the
it also
opportunity
gives-
to think about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nita.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that there are a few more things that we have some remaining money to use, that we can do it, and that we can get some of the committee, the Hewitt Farm Committee, to help to even clean up a little bit more outside of the building, because all of the work that we have done right now is very focused on the inside of the building. So that's it. That's the only thing to say.
Okay. If there's nothing else on that topic, we can. All set, Bob? Okay.
I just said thank you, Nita. No.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nita. Okay. So the number 6, RFP for town operations consultant discussion and our action. So this is something that I wanted to discuss with the selectmen. We've kind of continued over the years, and this is really up for discussion. I'm hearing feedback, certainly through the election process, and now even at some recent Board of Finance meetings, and even at our meetings when we first started the budget process about, the first selectman, the position of the first selectman, salary of the first selectman, as well as other staff members in town. What are we doing with staff? We've had some general discussions about that. And if we go back to the government restructure committee, there's recollections on all sides of things there. And unfortunately, the recording from the meeting where it was presented are not in existence. I was at the meeting, I know Nita was at the meeting. A lot of people were at the meeting, and we go to different meetings, and there's just different opinions on what that really meant. And so regardless of what it meant or didn't mean, we've kind of come to a pretty good place in town where we're functioning at a really good level. But there's continued concern about these topics. And if there's concern about the topics, and I think the Board of Finance even said at their last meeting that they feel that there's got to be some change even maybe into next year's budget. It makes sense to me that we bring in an expert to kind of take and do an analysis of what we're doing here and get some expert advice on the operations of town. I sit in the seat probably most qualified and most experienced at making recommendations, but I mean, I have made some recommendations and pointed out some things and even did my own analysis, and it wasn't received, and that's okay. I don't have any problem with that at all, and I don't have any problem with anything that would come out of bringing on a consultant like this. And I would even so far as say that, I don't need to have the direct line to this person in any way. I would say that we can have kind of an autonomous group work with a consultant to get some ideas and answers for how can we best utilize our the team we have here. What are some recommendations we could do, be it with staff, hours, all different things. So with what you have, what I gave to you was excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to toggle between my screens here. Was an example for an RFP that we would basically go out and try to get a company, and there are companies that do this. I kind of looked into it a little bit before, but I think the proper way is to go out to RFP on it because I don't know what the price will come in at. I will say that there is not money in the budget for this. So if this is something the selectmen want to do, I would want a commitment from trying to move it forward, and we would probably look for an additional appropriation to move it forward, which of course has to go through Board of Finance. Based on Board of Finance's comments, I would think that there's some support there for looking at this. So anyways, I've put an RFP together to kind of detail what I've explained verbally here, to look at things like, the staff roles, system strength and weaknesses, where can we use technology better to, eliminate inefficiencies and improve productivity, best leverage skill sets, and really just looking at staffing in general. And I think, hopefully we would come out with some answers, some professional, well-guided answers that we could have in writing that would say, okay, this is the direction that, maybe North Stonington should move in as it relates to not just the leadership structure, but just staffing in general, and maybe some other, hopefully some other good points that would come out of it. So just some general discussion for the selectmen on this topic in the RFP itself. Good, Bob.
So I read it, and it sounds like you want to hire pretty much an auditor over a 90-day period to figure out the town processes and what we use and if we're going about it the right way. So my only worry would be a couple of things. One is you don't know what the fee is, as you said, and that's going to be part of the RFP to bring it in. So depending on what that fee is it $5,000? Is it $50,000? We don't know. So that's going to determine if we want to go forward, not having the money in the budget and having to go for appropriation. Second thing is vetting out, besides the RFP, vetting out the applicants and who's going to be doing the auditing. I mean, it's going to be someone that is familiar with small town government. It can't be someone that just is familiar with Groton, New London, New Haven. It's going to be someone that knows small town government. It's because if not, we could be building governments much more expensive than we need in a small town just to get one of everything. I mean, it's kind of what the EMS committee is doing with the fire company right now. They're kind of vetting out similar towns with similar amounts of people and what makes sense as far as the fire company goes. And you're looking to do pretty much the same thing, only instead of a committee, because God knows we got a lot of committees, but instead of a committee, you want to do this as with it kind of like an auditor. And it makes sense to do it with an auditor rather than a committee. So, I mean, there's only so many volunteers in town that can be on these things. So I'm not opposed to putting an RFP out. I'd be anxious to find out and like to be involved in vetting out the respondents to this RFP, and then determining by the amount of money that comes in if the town can afford to do it or not. So I think there's steps to take before we agree to go forward, but I don't mind taking the first step.
So you'd favor potentially moving forward with the RFP. Of course, we don't know what the pricing is going to come back at, but
now we've done some research, and now we know what the pricing is. And it might make a lot of sense, it may make no sense because it's way out of our budget. And again, in the people that respond, if you look at them and they all have backgrounds in bigger government, one thing we don't need is bigger government. So if they have backgrounds in bigger government, and we're going to try to have North Stonington become a bigger government for a small town, it doesn't make sense that the taxpayers would want to pay for additional government. That's all. So I don't mind taking the first step to see where that gets us, and if we can do something that's relatively inexpensive to get us in a better position that may save taxpayer dollars in the long run, because now we're not doing redundant jobs, that would make sense to me.
Nita?
I guess I was thinking about the fact that we were all last fall excited about the sustainable program, which we never really have gotten a chance now to work with in quite some time, thanks to the virus and everything like that. Is there anything in that material and how those things are done that would help us with doing this?
No, I mean, I don't think so. The sustainable CT program, which we are still working on. I mean, I had a conference call. I've had a couple of conference calls. They are bringing another fellow in to the Connecticut Council of Governments. So we're going to try to strive for silver certification, and probably put that on a future agenda to talk about. But there's nothing in there that's related to this. No.
Nothing that takes a look at how things are being done, you're saying, place, basically.
No, I mean, I've talked to so I went to when they have the Connecticut Council of
Small.
CCM, they have their conference, which is here. So I went to it I go to it every year, usually, right? And it's at Foxwoods. I went last year, and they had a firm who talked about this kind of work. They do this kind of work, and I did talk to them about it. But got the impression that I think it's not like it's something we can pay for with budget line items we already have. I mean, it's not in the budget. And I didn't include it in the budget this year because it didn't come up until we started going through the budget process, and as the Board of Finance continued to have questions, and it's obvious that there's going to be more questions that we're not going to be able to answer without some data. I mean, we need data that's not just me getting data. I mean, that's what I did a lot of work to put data together, at least on the first selectman's position, but then there's other positions too, and we've talked about them. And so I think we need to do some work here, because I think there's opportunity in the town. And I think the only way we're going to get to that in a way that everybody's going to understand, appreciate, and value is through somebody that's a third party giving us the information, So, and I would definitely think, yeah, Bob, if you want to be, involved in it, if it's something we do, that's great. I probably would, I'll have to be involved in it if it moves forward in a way that, I'll certainly do a data dump to the group, or whoever it is. But I would prefer other people taking the oversight of this, as we move forward. And just to preface it, if the data that comes out of this is that, we should look at reductions, or we should look at additions, or we should look at, even with regards to the first selectman's position, I'm good with all that. I just think we need somebody to tell us. And so that's what I'm looking for, is a little bit of clarity. So I think it would be valuable to do this. So if you're in a favor of putting the RFP out, knowing that there's going to be a cost for it, and at least having a comfort level with, if it's not some exorbitant amount of money, looking to move for an additional appropriation, I don't want to put an RFP out for us not to have at least some sort of a consensus that, okay, we know it's going to cost money. If it's something where it's at least under the threshold and we can go to just the Board of Finance, then that seems reasonable to me. If it's beyond that and we have to go to town meeting, then, there's, who knows when we can even have a town meeting anyway. So, as long as there's a consensus on that, I think we should move to advertise this and see if we can get some interest.
Agree with that.
I'm okay with it.
All right, so can we get a motion to put this RFP out to bid?
I
Aye.
motion to put the RFP out to bid.
Second.
Sorry.
So- That's okay. Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so the Wintertog solar update. So I put this on here and, actually um, one of our public commenters had, kind of mentioned the area, which is, I guess there must have been some discussion about marking trails, which we haven't talked about. And, you know, it's the solar project is supposed to happen up on Wintertog Hill. We have got the approval at the town meeting, and in the interim, the company that we had anticipated doing the project did not, at this point, had not been able to find the pricing feasible that they had agreed to based on how far it is. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed because, you know, I think it's something that we would have expected to at least hear something about by now. I think that meeting was late last year. So right now, the attorney, who is Paul Machad, who kind of helped us navigate those waters, is in the process of looking to see if those terms can be duplicated with anyone else, if it's appropriate. You know, if not, we're going to have to revisit it. But I just wanted to bring you up to speed to let you know that has not started yet. It looks as if that company that we initially thought would be doing the solar project is not going to be a player. And when I have more to report, I'll bring it back. But I didn't know if you were getting any questions about it, so I just wanted to bring the selectmen up to speed on it. And so not knowing what's going on over there, I mean, I wouldn't advocate, and I haven't advocated for marking of any trails in that area right now. So unless I'm hearing something otherwise from the selectmen, I kind of stand to that. Okay.
Okay.
Moving on then, tax refunds. We have some tax refunds. They were sent separately. I don't think we had them at the time when we sent the packet out. So have to pull
We
those
have
up.
it. We did receive it.
You did, yes. I just have to pull them up in my email.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Here we go. So it looks like we have 2 refunds. Is that right?
Correct.
That's it.
So we've got a refund, 2 refunds, 9819 to Robert Whipple, 79228 Honda Lease Trust totaling 890.47. Do I have a motion to approve the tax refunds as presented?
So moved.
Okay.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have minutes. We have the minutes from the 26th.
Okay, I'll motion that we accept the minutes from the Zoom meeting dated May 26, 2020, as submitted by Christine.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Bear with me a second. Sorry, I'm toggling between screens here. Okay, so we have an executive session scheduled on the agenda just for the benefit of the public. Executive sessions there's only certain purposes for executive session, and this one is listed on the agenda here. Executive sessions are not open for the public, and the reasons are very few and far between that the selectmen can do this, and we don't often. But when there's personnel issues that we have to take up, those are done in session where the public is not in attendance. So what will happen here is that the Board of Selectmen will now entertain a motion to go into executive session. We'll go into executive session. We'll discuss the item in the executive session, and then we will come out of executive session. And when we come out of executive session, there's another agenda item. So to try to keep this proper for everyone, what we're going to do is the board is going to go ahead and make that motion. We're going to mute our Zoom. We're going to turn our screens off. We're just going to hop on the phone to discuss what we need to, and then we will come back to the meeting. So anyone is welcome to stay on the call if they'd like to. That's completely up to you, or you can certainly hop off of the call. It's your that is your prerogative. So I entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of employees, admin, finance, highway foreman.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. So we're in executive session, so I'd ask the selectmen to turn your cameras off and mute your devices.
Okay. Stop video.
And for the public, I will be here for the duration of them being there, so.
All right, so we are out of executive session at 8:39 PM. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 11, which is contract approval for the admin, finance, and highway foreman contract. So I'll take two separate motions here. Can I entertain a motion to approve the admin finance director, Christine Dias's contract?
I motion that we approve of Christine Dyer's contract.
Seconded.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And entertain a motion to approve the highway foreman, Donnie Hill's contract.
What? Yes.
Well, need to
Bob,
make
I
some
thought you were
motion.
going to do it. Go ahead. I thought you were going to do the whole thing.
So
Well-
need it.
Nita, are you motioning or?
No, I was waiting for you. Go ahead.
All right, I motion that we approve the contract of the foreman, highway foreman.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn?
I motion to
I make a
adjourn.
motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
All right.
you.
Good night. Have a good night.
Yep.